Good day and welcome to AGK's Vinyl Life. I'm your host Anthony K, and today is Friday, October 16th, 2020. And on this week's episode, I'm finally going to be doing an episode I've been planning and wanting to do for a couple months and just haven't got around to doing it. But I'm getting it out today. I normally have my videos on Mondays and Tuesdays every week, but this past Monday was, of course, Thanksgiving here in Canada. So I wanted to spend that with family, and Tuesday I just had too much to do and some important things to take care of on Tuesday, so couldn't get it out then. But getting it out today, it's Friday, good day to do a video anyhow. I sometimes release videos on Friday, so let's get on with it. On this week's episode, I am doing my top 15 compilation slash sampler albums, new compilation slash sampler albums that have been released in the 2010s. And the reason I wanted to do this is there was a thread going around in the summer about comp albums, show your comps, and people were showing basically their 80s, 70s, 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s comps. And I didn't want to release this video during that thread to be confused with that thread. I wanted to make this something separate. And the reason I'm doing this is because there's a lot of really, really good compilation sampler albums. I'm going to call them comps from now on, just so I don't have to keep saying comps and samplers. I'm going to call them compilation albums. There's a lot of really good stuff out now, and the quality of them has gone up drastically from the old days. Back in the old days, you had Ronco and K-Tel, 22 great hits. You had all these albums, and a lot of those samplers, those TV advertised sampler compilation albums, still doing it. Those TV advertised compilation albums, they would cram a pile of songs onto one disc, so hence the vinyl quality was not very good. They wouldn't last. They didn't have, that ability to really last well. The sound was not the best. It certainly wasn't audiophile quality sound. And in some instances, especially with K-Tel, they would actually, longer songs, they would actually chop them down. They weren't even single mixes. They were actually K-Tel mixes where they would actually chop the songs down, sometimes to like a 2.5 minute format from a 3 minute, to fit them on the album. But there were some great comps that came out, as you probably saw in that thread that people ran in the summer here in the VC. There are some great comps that came out, but I never bought them, any of the old comps, because I just found the quality was not the greatest on them, and shied away from them. But I am not shying away from the ones that have been released in the last 10 years, because they are absolutely spectacular. Compilation albums that are coming out nowadays, they are audiophile quality. Most of the compilations that come out now have full-length tracks, so they're not single cuts. They tend to be the album cuts, or even the EP cuts, or the 12-inch single cuts, whatever the particular songs are. They tend to be full-length. They tend to be properly mastered on audiophile, 180-gram vinyl, and so on and so forth. And there are some spectacular comps that have come out that I'm calling this my top 15. I do have more, but I'm going to call it my top 15 because these are my, probably, when I looked up all the comps I have, and I have a lot, these are the ones I just, immediately pulled that I just really like, that get a lot of spins. And the great thing about compilation albums like this, or samplers, are also a great way to start a collection. If you're a casual collector and don't really want to collect a whole band, and there's a lot of bands that you like one song from, or you just, you like there's going to be a bunch of 80s stuff in here. Let's say you like the 80s. 80s had a lot of one-hit wonders and things like that. These albums are the great way to fill out your collection with a lot of hits, a lot of good music, a lot of hits. Great way to get the best from decades, the best from genres, and every song on these comp albums tends to be well known and well recognizable. So comp albums I highly recommend as a way to fill out your collection if you really don't want to explore an artist and you don't only like the odd song for here and there, the artist. Or they're also great for when you're having friends over or parties or whatever, because they are having your own DJ and just throw one of these comps on and let the hits play. So that all being said, let's get on with it. I'm going to say this in the beginning for once. I hope you enjoy this video. If you do enjoy this video, please don't forget to like this video. Likes are always welcome. And please subscribe to my channel. I'm really happy with my subscriber count right now. It just keeps going up and up and up. I think I'm well over 630 now. And so thank you everybody that continually subscribes to my channel. Comments are always welcome down below after my videos. I always welcome your comments and try to reply to everybody's comments. With that all being said, on with the records. So the first two I've got here are actually record store day releases that I highly recommend. You might have to go shopping on Discogs for these or eBay. They're not going to be easy to find out in the wild, that is for sure. But I highly recommend these first two of my 15. And this first one is called Poppies. That's right, it's called Poppies. And this was released on Record Store Day 2019 in the Spring Record Store Day. It's called Poppies. And this is assorted finery from the first psychedelic age. So these are all psych songs, and there's some great tracks on this album, so I highly recommend this album. This album features, you know, Buffy St. Marie, Southwest FOB, Jefferson Lee, The Gospel, The Frost. And the thing that's interesting about the band The Frost, there's a 8-minute song on here by a band called The Frost. And The Frost, one of the members of The Frost, the guitarist of The Frost, was a man by the name of Dick Wagner. And some of you may know the name, some of you may not, but who Dick Wagner was is a few years later, Dick Wagner would play guitar on some tracks from Alice Cooper's School's Out, $1 Billion Babies, and Muscle of Love. And then he would be a full-time member playing lead guitar for Alice Cooper on the Welcome to My Nightmare album, Alice Cooper Goes to Hell album, Lace and Whiskey album, the Alice Cooper Show live album. I think he returned in Dada and even recently in Paranormal. Dick Wagner would go on to do a lot of work with Alice Cooper, but he's in a band called The Frost here, and the 8-minute song on here called Stand in the Shadows has a fantastic guitar solo by Mr. Dick Wagner. Also featured on this album is the Weed Factor, the Honey Jog, the Pastor Mac Progress, Circus Maximus, the Serpent Power, and the Human Jungle. Chapter 17 and Eric. This is a fantastic site collection. All the stuff I've seen on here, I've never seen anywhere else. I am familiar with Southwest FOB. I do have one of their albums. Buffy St. Marie, of course, everybody knows. A fantastic psych sampler comp. It's called Poppies, released on Record Store Days, if you can find it. And this came out on a beautiful red colored vinyl. I won't bother showing it because we've got to keep moving here. But this came out on beautiful red colored vinyl. Poppies, various artists. Next up is one this is probably my favorite comp of all my comps. It's definitely up there. Also a Record Store Day release, very hard to find. But I highly recommend, if you see this, buy this. I cannot say more about this. Every song on here is an absolute gem. And it is also a Record Store Day release. You probably have to shop for it on eBay or Discogs. It's not going to be easy to find. But this is a 4LP box set called Just Say 50. It's the Sire Records 50th anniversary box, released on Record Store Day in, I think, yeah, 2017 Record Store Day. And this is fantastic. Sire Records, of course, everybody knows that Sire Records, they are famous for labeling some of the best bands of the they started actually in the late 60s, had bands through the 70s and 80s, even into the 90s. Sire Records, some of the most famous bands of all time were signed to Sire Records. So this box set compilation album is spectacular. 8 sides of fantastic music. It comes with a beautiful booklet inside that, you know, just talks about the history of all the songs. There's notes about all the songs, which is really nice because it tells the history of each song on this collection. 4 LPs, of course, on the famous Sire label. And I'll just quickly run through just some of the artists featured on here because, you know, there's 50 artist features on here. But you've got things like Hocus Pocus, Focus. You know, you've got the Climax Blues Band, Renaissance, Flamin' Groovies, the Ramones, Blitzkrieg Bop. You know, the Saints, Radio Birdman, Talking Heads, Psycho Killer. Let's see, the Plastic Bertrand, Pop Music. Madness, One Step Beyond, the Paley Brothers and the Ramones, Come On Let's Go. The Pretenders, Brass in Pocket. Echo and the Bunnymen, Rescue. English Beat, Mirror in the Bathroom. Tainted Love, Soft Cell. Tom Tom Club. Kid Creole and the Coconuts. Madonna even, with her Everybody song. Yaz, Depeche Mode, Everything Counts. Laid Back, The Smiths, Hand in Glove. The Cure, The Walk. Erasure, Oh L'Amour. You know, it just goes, the Replacements, Alex Chilton. The Cult, Firewoman. Lou Reed, Dirty Boulevard. You know, Brian Wilson, Love and Mercy. Ice-T, Ministry, Dinosaur Jr., Primal Scream, Ride, Seal, Katie Lang, Bare Naked Ladies, Uncle Tupelo, Wilco, and Space Hog. This is a fantastic box set. If you can find it, this gets a lot of play. I do pull this out a lot and play. It's just like a trip down memory lane. Some of my favorite artists certainly came off the Sires label. Find it, you won't be sorry. Just say 50th anniversary Sire Records box. Now we're going to go backwards. And the next one I'm going to show you here is an interesting album that I found. And it's called The Basement Beehive. It's the girl group Underground. And this was released a couple of years ago. And it basically is a collection of obscure girl group recordings. You know, a lot of all girl bands before the days of the Runaways and all of that. These are rockin' girls. A fantastic collection of rockin' songs from a lot of different bands. I have to pull out, I guess, the booklet for track listings. But it does come with a beautiful booklet that talks all about the girl groups, shows, you know, here the singles of the various places that all these songs came from, detailed notes, and I believe right here is, here's the track listing. It's a double album, and you've got, you know, the 4 J's, the Chantels with the Aqualags, the Passionettes, the Tonettes, Vicky and the Van Dykes, the Vandalettes, the Devilettes, Dot and the Velveteens, the Chapels, Devotions, the Hill Sisters, the Silhouettes, the Melodons, the Cinemas, Judy and the Affections, the Paramounts, the Bells, the Petites, the Voices, Charles Pike and the Scholars, the Contessas, the Shades, the Monzas, Tony and the Hearts, the Dreamliners, the Rayons, Paulette and the Cupids, and Bernadette Carroll. Fabulous book, a fabulous spin. 60s garage rock, female garage rock. It's an absolute great collection. Highly recommend. Of course, 180 gram audio file grade vinyl. Look that one up. Basement Beehive, the girl group Underground. Highly, highly recommend. Beautifully pressed. Now, next up is a pair of disco albums. That's right, disco. And, you know, some people hate disco. Disco was a part of, you know, I grew up disco, you know, I grew up before disco was, I was listening to music before disco was around, and obviously long after. But disco was a part of my life at one point in my life. And disco was a relevant form of music in the mid to late 70s that eventually got, you know, turned into what we have as modern dance music and whatnot, hip hop and so on today. But disco is important, and I think everybody should have some disco in their collection. So here's a pair of disco albums that were released just a couple of years ago, I believe. These were, 2017, and then the volume 2 was, of course, a year later in 2018. And this is called Disco Anthems. And this is a 3-record set on beautiful 180 gram vinyl, beautifully mastered, really great sounding. Disco Anthems. And it is kind of these are produced in the UK, actually. These albums were pressed in the UK and produced in the UK. And they are great. And these are all the full-length versions of songs. They're not cut down, so a lot of them are like the 12-inch mixes and the disco mixes. When you went into the discos, these are the mixes you hear, not so much the ones you heard on the radio. You have the Jacksons, Shake Your Body, see, 12-inch mixes. Yeah, these are all 12-inch mixes, so they're all long versions. You got the Jacksons, you've got Earth, Wind and Fire, Boogie Wonderland, Heat Wave, Boogie Nights. You know, you've got, let's just, I don't want to go with everything because there's so much. Cheryl Lynn, Vicky Sue Robinson, Andrea Turu Connection, Boney M, Village People, and many, many, many more. 6 sides of music, fantastic disco album, beautifully mastered. And then, of course, a year later, they released Volume 2, Disco Anthems, Volume 2, another 3-record set on beautiful 180 gram audiophile vinyl, beautifully mastered. And Volume 2 featured the Jacksons, Blame It on the Boogie. And once again, these are all the long 12-inch mixes. Viola Willis, Anita Ward, Ring My Bell, you know, Odyssey, Earth, Wind and Fire, Fantasy, Patrick Hernandez, Herbie Hancock, You Bet Your Love, Karen Young, Evelyn Champagne King, Shame, Melba Moore, This Is It, Tina Charles, I Love to Love, Munich Machine, Dan Hartman, The 3 Degrees, Silver Convention, Get Up and Boogie, GQ, Disco Nights, Village People, Go West, Eruption, and another Boney M. So a really good compliment. The 2 together basically give you probably some of the greatest disco anthems, as the titles suggest, ever released on beautifully mastered, beautiful 180 gram vinyl. Next up is an album I believe was released last year, and it's called, yes, this was last year, 2019, and it's called Electronic. And this is a fabulous collection of 80s new wave, new romance, new wave artists. So a really spectacular collection. Sounds great. It's pressed on a lighter vinyl. This feels like it's probably a 140 gram vinyl. But once again, beautifully mastered. And this is a real treat. And this is pretty easy to find. You pick it up on Amazon or whatever. Produced by Sony Music. And this Electronic features some fantastic artists and songs. You know, you've got Human League, Love Action, Japan, Quiet Life, Visage, Fade to Grey, Tears for Fears, Mad World, The Cure, The Walk, Devo, Whip It, Soft Cell, Say Hello, Wave Goodbye, Donna Summer, I Feel Love, Harold Faltermeyer, Herbie Hancock, Rocket, Yellow, The Race. Let's see, we got Malcolm McLaren on here, Jan Hammer, you know, Crockett's Theme, Orchestral Maneuvers, In the Dark, Enola Gay, Heaven 17. You got Howard Jones on here, Flock of Seagulls, Wishing I Had a Photograph of You, Ultravox Hymn, Simple Minds, Glittering Prize. What else? You got the Buggles on here, Video Clip Killed the Radio Star. You got Kim Wilde, The Kids in America, Altered Images, Falco, Joe Jackson, Martha and the Muffins, Echo Beach, and many more. Electronic, highly recommend. Easy, should be still easy to get on Amazon or wherever great records are sold. Fantastic comp from last year of 80s new romance, new wave. Also, I believe this was released on Sony, also from Sony Legacy Music, and this was released just this summer. And this is, I guess you could almost say like a follow-up to Electronic. This is called Soft Rock. Yeah, just quite simply Soft Rock. Once again, this feels like it's on a 120 gram, maybe a 180 and 140 gram vinyl. Another great collection, 4 sides of music once again. And this is, it's called Soft Rock. And, you know, there's a lot of songs on here that I would never have bought. There's, you know, obviously a lot that I have on the albums, but there's a lot on here that I would never have bought that artist's album just for that one song. And so the selection of stuff on here is great. We've got Queen, We Are the Champions, Paul McCartney and Wings, Live and Let Die, Electric Light Orchestra, Sweet Talkin' Woman, Boss Gags, Lido Shuffle, 10TC, I'm Not in Love, Toto, Rosanna, REO, Speedwagon. You know, you got Philip Bailey and Phil Collins, Meatloaf, Bonnie Tyler, you know, Total Eclipse of the Heart, Heart, Hall & Oates, John Parr, St. Elmo's Fire, Night Ranger, Sister Christian, Elton John, Tiny Dancer, Billy Joel, My Life, Roxy Music, Avalon, Pat Benatar, We Belong, Kim Carson's Betty Davis Eyes, Laura Branigan, Self Control. I mean, the hits go on and on. Bon Jovi's on here, Cher, Mr. Scorpions, even with Wind of Change, even my, you know, Gary Moore with one of my all-time favorite artists, Phil Lynott and Parisian Walkaways. So a really great collection of, you know, just great tunes, great spin, highly recommend. Soft Rock, essential softer rock and power pop classics. Next up, this is an interesting spin, and I really like this. And I found this just kind of fluking when I was searching out comps one day on Amazon. This came out 3 years ago, I believe. 2 years ago, 2018. And for those of you that are wondering, should I get into some symphonic opera and metal? As it's very big now. There's a lot of symphonic metal bands out there from mostly, Eastern Europe area. And so when I saw this one, I had not gotten into quite a few of these bands yet. And this was a great sampler. And it's simply called Symphonic and Opera Metal. See if you can find it. And what it is, it's a sampler. It's a one-disc sampler of some of the greatest symphonic metal bands out there right now, such as Nightwish, Delain, Epica, Camelot, Avantasia, Within Temptation, Exandria, Visions of Atlantis, Serenity, and Exit Eden. Some really great tracks on here. Not so much singles or anything. These are all just deep album cuts, but they're all really good. And it was because of this album that actually got me into Nightwish, Delain, Epica, Avantasia, and Within Temptation. So, 5 of the bands that were featured on this, I went and explored these bands. I'd heard of these bands, but hadn't really listened to anything by them. Excuse me. So this was a great sampler. Highly recommend. Reasonably priced. Symphonic and opera metal. Next up is a 60s comp that came out. And this is Ready, Steady, Go, the 60s. And this is from the Ready, Steady, Go series. This came out, I believe, 2017. And this is a great exploration of the 60s on 2 records. And these feel like these are probably 140-gram vinyl. You've got, I'm not going to get into all the song names again because you've got to get a move on here. But you've got people like, and this is all 60s, great 60s stuff from people like Man for Man, the Beach Boys, The Who, Small Faces, The Animals, Moody Blues, Yardbirds, Humble Pie. Let's see what else. We've got the Monkees on here, the Byrds, the Lemon Pipers, Supremes, Petula Clark, Dusty Springfield. Let's see, Donovan's here, Turtles are here, Status Quo's here, the Searchers are here, the Tornadoes, the Kinks, the Mamas and the Papas, the Young Rascals, and Procol Harum, and many, many more. Ready, Steady, Go. The 60s. Find it. Great spin. Next up is another one that I got. I believe this one came out last year, 2019, and I love this one. This one's called 12-inch 80s, 3 LPs. They are all 180-gram, beautifully mastered. And this is from Denon Records, so Denon always make beautifully mastered records. And this is another great 80s exploration and these are all, as it says, 12-inch mixes. So 12-inch 80s, you've got on here Dead or Alive, Propaganda, Scritti Politti, Men Without Hats, Sexpress, Malcolm McLaren, Whitney Houston, Pointer Sisters, Miami Sound Machine, Shalimar, Herbie Hancock, Jacksons, Boys Town Gang, Evelyn Thomas, Linda Carlisle, Nina, Haircut 100, even Liza Minnelli, Eighth Wonder. A fantastic selection of 12-inch singles. So if you don't want to go, crate digging for all those, 80s 12-inch singles, this is a great way to get a whole whack of some of the best 12-inch singles that came out in the 80s. 12-inch 80s, look it up. Fantastic. And another 80s collection. This is called the 80s Pop Annual. And there's also a 70s Pop Annual, but I haven't got it. This is a 2-record set on 180-gram vinyl, also released by Denon Records, featuring more great 80s bands such as Wham, Cyndi Lauper, Men Without Hats, let's see, Kenny Loggins, Bangles, Deborah Harry, Belinda Carlisle, Starship, Nick Hayward, Adam and the Ants, Bow Wow Wow, Altered Images, Ultravox, Howard Jones, Irene Cara, The Weather Girls, Divine, and SOS Band, and many more. Look this one up. The 80s Pop Annual, easily available on Amazon. Another one is from a great company called Ministry of Sound, which I'm very fond of, who are very influential for me in the late 1990s through the early 2000s when I was heavily into trance and techno, which is coming up in a future video, when I was heavily into trance and techno. But the Ministry of Sound organization has released a small collection called Electronic 80s. with some really great songs on it. It's only a 2-record set with a total of a dozen songs, but they are all fantastic 12-inch mixes and special remixes, and some real absolute gems, as you can find this Ministry of Sound Electronic 80s. I highly recommend this one, as it's got on it Soft Cell, Tainted Love, the original 12-inch. So that's that big long version of Tainted Love. Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Relax, Spandau Ballet, Chant Number 1. These are all the full 12-inch mixes. Bronski Beat, Small Town Boy, The Human Love, Don't You Want Me, Thompson Twins, Hold Me Now, Herbie Hancock Rocket, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, Big Audio, Dynamite, ABC Look of Love, Aha, Take Me On, Altered Images, a fantastic spin. On, what type of vinyl is this? I'm saying this is, yeah, this probably feels like about a 140. And one more 80s one for you all. This is Smash Hits, the 80s again. Another great 80s, reasonably priced. These last couple are reasonably priced, easy to find on Amazon. Smash Hits the 80s. Another 2-record set, and these are on 180 gram vinyl for sure. This is produced by Rhino Records. Really, really well pressed from Rhino Records. And on here you've got the classic New Order, Blue Monday, Aha, Duran Duran, Hungry Like the Wolf, B-52's Love Shop, Banana, Venus. You know, you got Tina Turner on here, Simply Red, The Cars Drive, Pretenders, Don't Get Me Wrong, Aztec Camera, The Smiths, Joy Division, Talking Heads, The Stranglers, Talk Talk, It's My Life, you know, Chaka Khan, Diana Ross, Fleetwood Mac Everywhere, Spandau Ballet, and Brother Beyond. So another great, reasonably priced 80s collection. Highly recommend. And we're down to the last two, and I will leave that one for now. I'll go to this one. And this one came out, I believe, last year as well. Yep, 2019, once again on Denon Records. And this is 90s Dance Anthems. So this is a real great collection of obscure, 90s material. Most of the stuff obviously was, on, DJ 12-inch singles and on CDs. So it's nice to have something, and once again, produced by Denon Records. So it's a 2-record set of all 90s materials featuring, which sort of led, some of it, leads into the trance and techno age. So it's all that great dance music that was popping up in the clubs in the 90s, and it leads a little bit into the trance and techno towards the end of the 90s. But I'm going to discuss that in a future video. But on here you've got, such great 90s groups as, Fatboy Slim, Basement Jaxx, David Morales, Love Station, Blue Boy, Kenny Dope, Baby D, Snap, Real McCoy, Robin S., Strike, Urban Cookie Collective, Faithless, Insomnia, classic song, Robert Miles Children, classic, Gala, Grace, Olive, Atlantic Ocean, William Orbit, Adagio for Strings, a fantastic song, Rosella, Dr. Alban, Corona, Felix, Hadaway, and DeLacy. And any of you 90s fans will probably recognize all those names I just put out. So 90s dance anthems, look for it. And last but not least, one more box set, and this is a spectacular collection. Came out in the fall of 2019, and I believe it was like November. And this is a 8-disc, if I remember right, yes, an 8-disc box set called Factory Communications 1978 to 1992. Factory Communications was a label that put out such bands as Joy Division and New Order, among others, and this completely explores Factory Communications' work for those 14 years with full-length songs. A lot of this stuff is, you would not be able to find anymore. You would really have to crate dig. A lot of these are 12-inch singles and EPs and things. It is a spectacular collection, 8 discs, hours and hours and hours of music. Highly recommend. And it comes with a booklet, of course, inside. This one should still be available. Comes with a booklet inside that talks all about everything, discusses every song in great detail. Beautifully pressed on 180 gram vinyl. Shows where all these songs came from. You can't go wrong with this. And it has things like on it Joy Division, Cabaret Voltaire, A Certain Ratio, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, The Distractions, the Durutti Column, quite a few. And there's multiple songs by these artists, multiple tracks from Joy Division, OMD, Cabaret Voltaire, New Order, Section 25, A Certain Ratio, like I mentioned. You got New Order I mentioned. Quite a few from New Order. Royal Family and the Poor, Swamp Control, 52nd Street, more New Order, more Cabaret Voltaire, Quando, The Wake, Marcel King, an absolutely incredible, I'm not going to go into it because the video is getting long, but a fantastic box set, beautifully mastered, real treat. It is not cheap. I think the price on this has gone up drastically in the last few months, but if you can find it, get it. It is the real exploration of all the unusual music that came out from Factory Records from 1978 to 1992. And those are my top 15 comp/album samplers that have been released in the last 10 years or so. The comps that are coming out now, I jump on them. I'm always watching for new comps because these things are all beautifully mastered, full-length tracks on them, deep album tracks. They didn't make comps like this in the 70s and 80s. If they had made more like this, I would have definitely jumped on them back in the day. But the quality is here. They sound great. Highly recommend. Look them up. You won't be sorry with any of those because right here is a fantastic exploration of all styles of music, all through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Look them up. Check them out. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to follow me on my Instagram, which is at AGK_lifetime of vinyl, where I try to post the spin of the day every day. I don't always, but I'm trying to get back to a regular posting schedule of showing a record every day on there. And I will see you all next week in my next video, and I think I might be jumping on a thread that was released this week. I don't do many threads, but I think I might jump on this one because I kind of liked it. I'd like to give some shout outs also just before I leave. Shout out to Roberts on my turntable. Of course, my friend David Michael, Naz Nomad, Frank Landry over at Channel 33 RPM, Melinda Murphy, Glenn Calloway, who I was speaking with earlier this week. Shout out to all you guys. One day I'll do a proper shout outs video. But that's it. That's all. I'll see you guys all next week. And you know what I always say now. Rock on.